Okay, so going to turn for the worse and has been moved to ICU in Houston, so keep them in your prayers. Missy, where you at? Thank you. Thank you for feeding us tonight. Is it a compulsion for you to deflect compliments? But thank you very much. Thank you. Next week, chicken. Got chicken. Okay. We have a Dad's Disciple breakfast planned for Saturday, August 29th at 8 a.m. here at the building. There's a sign-up sheet in the foyer, so they'll know how much food to get for all of us. Church Eat Church is going to be August 30th. And Farmington Church of Christ Men's Business Meeting will be Sunday, September the 13th in the Fellowship Hall. And we've got a prayer list on the back for you guys, or in the bulletin and on the back for you guys to pray through. We've been studying apologetics in here, and I have really enjoyed this study. We focused, but I don't think this is information for us to go and try to convert atheists to our way of thinking. It's good to have that information. It's good to hold it in your toolbox. But I remember over 20 years ago, I was in a congregation, and we were talking about, something was mentioned in Bible class about dinosaurs, and this sweet little old lady said, well, I just tell my kids and grandkids there's no such thing. And I thought I just hated to hear that. And we come up with so much of a media pressure, of a pressure from all sides of information. That's a better way to put it, information on Christianity. And this is a great way to present this so you know and have more faith and belief. And so you can help your kids. Even if you don't know the answer, you know there's an answer there. Even if you can't remember this material a year or two from now, you know it's there, and we can go and we can find it. Also, the whole purpose and reason for the theory of evolution is to remove God. That's what it's all for. No one sat down and looked at evidence and came up with this. They sat down and said, how can we explain our existence without God? And you know that came after the age of enlightenment. We'll take a look at the news and take a look outside and see how well enlightenment's done for mankind. And we've got history. Man, have we got history on how well it's done for mankind. Over and over again. Even the children of Israel, just in Book of Kings, you just see it over and over again. And so I ask you to be skeptical people. You know, my dad was not raised in the church, but he went to church every Sunday. But when he met my mother, who was raised in the church, he couldn't get over how much they pounded Scripture and relied on the Scripture. And a preacher would stand up in a pulpit and say, don't take my word for it. You do the work yourself. We need to be skeptical. Every one of us can believe. Every one of us has seen it. Every one of us knows about it. Where religion, God, and this book has been taken, twisted, manipulated for someone to gain power or to help themselves. We've seen it over and over again. Why not science? The laws of science are real. They are unmoving. Thank goodness, or I'd just float off this rock. Craig? 2 + 2 does equal 4. But again, you have people in that field that will take that information and they will take those studies and they will twist them and use them to their own ends. And we need to understand that as well. Just because it says science on it doesn't mean. Let's dig into it a little deeper. When we pass this life, as I heard a preacher from Indiana say one time, he said this an old saying we have here in this state, it's one-on-one. It's you and your Lord. There's no one else there vouching for you. You know, Bobby Glenn is a great elder, but he's not going to be standing there witnessing for me that I should get in the gates. I have to take accountability for that, and we need to do that in this field as well. We are to be shrewd. We are to be wise. And when the whole world is walking in a line together, we need to be the ones that are standing apart, trusting in our Lord and in the mind that he gave us and the heart that he gave us. Job chapter 40. We're going to start Job chapter 40. By the way, we're going to talk about dinosaurs tonight. We're going to talk about dragons tonight. And let me tell you something. I have a tiny little bit of information to show you. There's so much information to explain dinosaurs and men together on this earth instead of being separated by millions of years. And I just couldn't cover it all. In fact, if you go to Apologetics Press website, which I know Rodney's talked about, I think Marion talked about. By the way, Marion did a great job last week. How about that? I walked out and went, wow, he did such a good job. I was very impressed. And there's so much information there. I found one of the reports I read, I didn't read the whole thing, but it was 256 pages to go through for evidence that dinosaurs were on the planet at the same time that man was, contrary to what evolutionists tell us. So Job chapter 40, you know the situation here. You know Job's been talking to God. And verse 16, God's kind of had enough of it. God's like, here, step back, kid. Let me tell you a few things. In chapter 40, verse 16, he says, behold, behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins, the power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs are like bars of iron. He is the first of the works of God. Let him who made him bring near his sword. That's a warning. Just try bringing your sword to this guy. For the mountains yield food for him, where all the wild beasts play. Under the lotus plants he lies, in the shelter of the reeds and in the marsh. For his shade the lotus trees cover him, the willows of the brooks surround him. Behold, if the river is turbulent, he's not afraid. He is confident, though Jordan rushes against his mouth. Can one take him by his eyes, or pierce his nose with a snare? I've seen 2,000-pound bulls with a ring in their nose just being led around. No problem. He says, you can't do this to this creature. How many of your Bibles have a footnote on what this creature is? What's it say it is? A hippopotamus. Wow. Wow, but good for you. We need to switch Bibles. Have you ever seen the hippopotamus's tail? Does that look like a cedar from Lebanon? By the way, the temple was built out of the cedars of Lebanon. Yeah. Some versions say an elephant. So I just wanted to point that out as we go forward and look at some of this evidence here. In 2013, a hadrosaur skin was discovered in this website. It's called The Archaeologist. Now, why is it important that there was dinosaur skin discovered? Millions of years. The fossil was first spotted in 2021 by volunteer Terry Caskey during a field trip led by Dr. Brian Pickles of the University of Reading. While searching for the Tyrannosaurus rex teeth, Caskey noticed a large intact bone protruding from a hillside Upon closer inspection, she realized it was part of a young hadrosaur, which preserved with skin. I hate that my format's like that. The specimen includes much of the skeleton, which exposed sections of the tail and hind leg. The skin retains pebbly textures and surface details, including dark, scaly patches with a basketball-like appearance. And that's from another website called Live Science. And these are not creationist websites that I quoted, and I did that specifically. Here's another story. Dinosaurs and mammals coexist. Again, we're taught that dinosaurs died out way before mammals. A rare fossil discovery shows 120 million year old Microraptors. I don't know. It's probably from the Charles Lewis family. But again, I left that 120 million year in here because I want you to see these are not just creationist websites I pulled this from. A crow-sized bird-like dinosaur from the early Cretaceous period. So this is a bird-like dinosaur. In its belly, with the ankle and foot of a small mammal, preserved inside its rib cage. This is one of only a few direct records we have of a dinosaur consuming a mammal, and the first such find in a Microraptor specimen. The fossil was part of a large collection from China's province, had never been fully examined until researchers noticed the mammal remains. The foot has a well-defined heel and 3 toe bones per digit, a mammal-like feature not seen in reptiles. The bones appear intact, suggesting the mammal was swallowed whole. Okay, so right here we're seeing that, we're showing that mammals existed at the same time as dinosaurs. So there we go. There's one crack we've broken in just in this small time tonight. We also talked about the skin a moment ago. There's no way that skin's 200 million years old. Oh, and by the way, since that was discovered, that skin discovery, there's been 16 more discoveries of soft tissue like that in fossil remains of dinosaurs. How about the Mesopotamian cylinder seals? Now, these are seals they made and carved, and they're I don't know what they're made of. I don't know if they're metal or some type of a concrete seal, but they could roll them and they'd make these repeated patterns. And they had deer and they had lions, they had all kinds of things, but they also have seals that apparently show dinosaurs, and that looks like some sort of flying dinosaur as well there. The Narmer tablets. Narmer was the first pharaoh of Egypt. These were discovered in 1897 by British archaeologists James Quibble and Frederick Green at the Temple of Horus. It is carved from siltstone and measures 64 centimeters by 42 centimeters. Again, you can see there on the picture, they found, there's other tablets, this isn't the only one, but they found other animals, again, deer, bear, lions, and appears to be dinosaurs here. How would anyone know to carve that? How would they know to have carved that 4,000 years ago? They saw it. They saw it. How about this 800-year-old Cambodian temple? There's carvings of deer on this temple. There's carvings of bear on this temple. There's carvings of all kinds of wildlife. But what does that look like? Looks like a Stegosaurus. And Brad Harrop, which I heard at, I think I went to Huntsville. I went to Huntsville Church of Christ years ago, maybe 20 years ago, hosted him. And I went over there, me and Curtis Snyder went over there a couple nights and went to that meeting, and I heard him talk about this, and he said a friend of his went and actually went down there and saw this temple, and they were being guided around it because it's kind of a tourist thing, and he said something to the guide, and the guide said, I know what you're thinking, but we're supposed to tell you that's a porcupine. This is on the same subject. This was built by the epic builder King J. The 7th in the late 1100s. A small carving on a crumbling temple wall seems to show a dinosaur, a Stegosaurus to be exact. Inca burial stones. You know, we have a lot of, when we have funerals, we have traditions that we do in other religions, other parts of the country even. They have different traditions than we have here. But one of the things that the Inca Indians did in South America is it was traditional for them to carve on a stone and bury it with their loved one. And I believe his name was Dr. Baker, came across some of these stones and learned about them. And so he got a team down there, and they found over 20,000 of these stones. They went into tombs and crypts. They didn't dig them out of the dirt. That's not the way they're buried, but they're in tombs and crypts, and they found over 20,000 of these stones. A third of them have carvings of dinosaurs on them. Native American petroglyph under the Kashina Bridge at Natural Bridges National Monument in Utah. So again, that is not a cow, hippopotamus, or elephant that was carved in the wall there. This is a tomb of Bishop Richard Bell. I wish I could remember what country he's buried. His tomb lays. But what I want you to notice is the around the edge here. This is bronze, inlaid bronze around the edge. And there are all kinds of things carved in there, all kinds of animals carved in there. And this is also carved in there as well. Again, we ask the question, how would they know to carve these things? Or how about Supai Canyon? Pick on you, Karen. Do you know where this canyon is? Oh, it's an easy guess. It's off the Grand Canyon. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know that. I wouldn't have known that. But it is. It's a canyon that's off the Grand Canyon. And they did an expedition, and they were going down these different canyons looking at the different cave carvings by the Indians there, and they came across this one here. And again, that is not an American buffalo. Let's get to dragons, and we're going to start in Job. We're going to continue in Job chapter 41. We're going to read a bit. And by the way, dragons are talked about in another book of the Bible we'll get to here in a minute. But in Job chapter 41, God continues. After he's hammered Job about this mighty hippopotamus, he says, "Can you draw out Leviathan with a fish hook, or press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose, or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make pleas to you? Will he speak to you soft words? Will he make a covenant with you to take him for your servant forever? Will you play with him as with a bird? Or will you put him on a leash for your girls? Will traders bargain over him? Will they divide him up among the merchants? Can you fill his skin with harpoons, or his head with fishing spears? Lay your hands on him and remember the battle. You will not do it again. Behold, the hope of man is false. He is laid low even at the sight of him. No one is so fierce that he dares to stir him up. Who then is he who can stand before me? Who has the first given to me that I should repay him? Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not keep silence concerning his limbs, or his mighty strength, or his goodly frame. Who can strip off his outer garment? Who would come near him with a bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? Around his teeth is terror. His back is made of roses' shield, shut up closely as with a seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They clasp each other and cannot be separated. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of dawn. Out of his mouth go flaming torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils come forth smoke, as from a boiling pot or burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and flame comes forth from his mouth. In his neck abides strength, and terror dances before him. The folds of his flesh stick together, firmly cast on him and immovable. His heart is hard as stone, hard as the lower millstone. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. At the crashing, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it does not avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. He counts iron as straw, and bronze as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. For him, sling stones are turned to stubble. Clubs are counted as stubble. He laughs at the rattle of javelins. His underparts are like sharp potsherds. He spreads himself like a threshing sledge on the mire. He makes a deep bowl like a pot. He makes a sea like a pot of ointment. Behind him he leaves a shining wake, one who would think the deep to be white-haired. On the ocean there is none his like, a creature without fear. He sees everything that is high. He is a king over all the sons of pride. I feel like I'm listening to Worldwide Wrestling, and they are putting down some smack talk because God is bringing it right here. I'm going to talk about this fire-breathing thing last. We'll get to that in a minute. But Marion talked about the flood last week. He talked about fossils. And what did he say was maybe the first evidence of the flood? What did he say? Yes. Yes. Guess what all cultures also have about dragons? They have dragon myths in almost every culture. And you're gonna see some atheists here in a minute admit that. Carl Lindell, contributing writer for World Book Encyclopedia, he believes dragons do not really exist, even though every country had them in its mythology, he admitted. Carl Sagan noted, I know no one's ever heard of this guy, but the implacable mutual hostility between man and dragon, as exemplified in the myth of St. George, is strongest in the West, but it is not a Western anomaly. It is a worldwide phenomenon. Think about how hard it would be for all these cultures to spread a myth, word of mouth. I mean, wars and battles and skirmishes are started over nothing, but can you imagine people that can't even speak the same language getting along, trying to understand one another? It had to be impossible for something like that to happen. 1,000 years ago, dragons were such familiar creatures that what they looked like and how they behaved was common knowledge to every man, woman, and child. From Peter Hogarth. How about Herodotus, a historian that is reputable today? He says, there's a place in Arabia to which I went on hearing of some winged serpents. And when I arrived there, I saw bones and spines of serpents in such quantities as it would be impossible to describe. The form of the serpent is like that of a water snake, but he has wings without feathers and as like as possible to the wings of a bat. So we've got a flying reptile here. Or how about this guy? Josephus. He talked about a part of Egypt, said, when the ground was difficult to be passed over because of the multitude of serpents, which it produces in vast numbers, some of which ascend out of the ground unseen and also fly in the air. Here we go, Isaiah 36. An oracle of the beast of Negeb. Sorry, Todd. I did listen in class, but I don't have that one down. Through a land of trouble and anguish, from where come the lioness and the lion, the adder and the flying fiery serpent. They carry the riches on the backs of donkeys and their treasures on the humps of camels to a people that cannot profit them. So again, here it's mentioned in the Bible again. How about this guy? Any of you guys study him in school? Yeah, we studied him in school as well. He's writing about part of his trip in China, and he says, here are found snakes and huge serpents, 10 paces in length and 10 spans in girth. That is 50 feet long and what is that, 8 feet? About 8 feet across. At the forepart near the head, they have 2 short legs, each with 3 claws, as well as eyes larger than a loaf and very glaring. Their jaws are wide enough to swallow a man. The teeth are large and sharp, and their whole appearance is so formidable that neither man nor any kind of animal can approach them without terror. Others of a smaller size being 6 or 5 paces long. Think about the Chinese dragons in their parades and their celebrations. What do they look like? They got those big eyes and they got a big wide mouth. I also found some information I didn't include in here about some documentation of one of their emperors that raised dragons to pull his cart through the streets. So again, there's so much. You just have to look for it, but there's a lot there. All right. What about fire breathing? I remember growing up in the 1980s, and I was just a kid. Greg, my parents hated the Dukes of Hazzard, but I loved it because they had a orange car. You know, I didn't know who Daisy Duke was or how short her shorts were. I didn't know any of that, but I knew that was a fast orange car. But I remember growing up in the 80s at that age, and I can't remember if I was at my grandparents' house or at my mother and father's house, and I'm kind of walking through the living room, and they were watching 60 Minutes or 2020, one of those news shows. And I'll never forget this. I don't know why, John, why the weirdest stuff sticks in your head. But it was a story over the government studying cattle for their pollution with the methane gas that they produce when they digest food. How old was I? I mean, I don't, and I remember that. Why did I remember that? But I looked it up, and they consider American cows are the largest producer of methane gas in the world, and it told how many million cubic feet of methane gas they put. So the EPA still monitors this to this day. Is methane gas flammable? Yeah. Can you imagine what we just described in Job? How much belching methane gas that dude could produce? Okay. And I'm just postulating here because we don't know. But what if he picked up some rocks and could spark them in his mouth and blow that gas out? Or what if God made some kind of incrustations on their teeth? I'm just asking questions because we don't know. We don't know how this happened, but God said it happened. Isaiah just called them fiery serpents.
Humans expel methane gas also.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And 14-year-old boys have a good time figuring that out at bunking parties. Never been there. Don't know anything about them. Yep. That's a bombardier beetle, and it produces an acid. It has extra organs in it that can actually, one of them produces it and one of them holds it, and there's 2 acids, and one of them's hydrochloric acid. I couldn't pronounce the other one. But that's what it sprays on its enemies when they approach it, and it can blind their enemies. Also, think about the electric eel. 860 volts that thing can put out. It can flat out kill a horse. And there have been documented people that have died from getting shocked, and they can't get out of the water, and they drown. But yeah, why not? Yes.
Look at the first time you saw
lightning.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a, try and explain that one to somebody that's never seen one like this program. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. We call them fireflies where I'm from.
I'm pretty sorry.
But the point tonight is that you see that there's writings. I've given you historians that have written about these creatures. I've given you art that has been done on these creatures. So what happened to the dinosaurs? They got killed.
They could very well been like, for all the art you're showing, they were around. after the
Yes.
flood.
Yeah, they were out around after the flood.
You know how many animals we've had go extinct just in our
Yes. Yes. And that was my point. No. I love to listen to documentaries and stuff. I listen to Razorback sports stuff, but I like to listen to documentaries and stuff while I work. And I was just sickened recently listening to one about the railroad and how many buffaloes they killed in like 2 years. Just astounding. Astounding. We almost extincted them. But I don't know why the dinosaurs are gone. No one really knows. I listened to a creationist just today. I was still hitting that question up while I was working, and he said, "I'll tell you why they died." Well, man, that sounded like a Bubba joke to me, but anyway, yeah, they just were killed out. I think one of the things that happens to the big ones is you're out searching for food. You're and your buddies. Do you want to kill a Arkansas 110-pound doe, or do you want to kill that thing and feast on it for a while? But I don't know. But I can tell you that there is a lot of evidence that we showed just here tonight in writings from historians and in our artwork that tell us they were here. There was another picture I didn't put in here, but it was of a dinosaur track, and across it was a human track. And you can tell the dinosaur stepped over the human track, and I wish I would have put that in. But there's so much stuff, guys. If y'all go to Apologetics Press or look up Brad Harrub, Mr. Berger was talking about John Clayton, who was an atheist that became a member of the church. And he went into creationism, and he has a whole, I cannot remember the name of his page, something about Genesis, but he has a lot of these things, and I've heard him speak down in Russellville as well. All right.
I've heard the crocodile was left over from dinosaurs.
Yeah.
They had a lot of the characteristics of dinosaurs.
I'm beginning to wonder if Razorback football is too.
Oh,
Hey, I'm a fan. I can do that. Mike can't do that. But no, you're right. I've heard the same thing, Jim. I've heard him say the same thing. All right. Well, you guys have a good evening.